Hey everybody, this is David. I'm in the process of finishing up grading Module 2 papers, and what I wanted to do is give you some tips on how to format your papers going forward using a strategy that I've used for many years in developing outlines. And so even in my undergraduate, graduate, and postgraduate work, what I've done is I like to use templates, and so I create paper templates that I will just go in and adjust each time. And so I wanted to show you how I do that, and hopefully it will help you begin to structure your papers using creative outlines going forward. What I wanted to do is I wanted to do this using the Module 3 assignment that you're going to be working on this week. So the Module 3 assignment, written assignment, has you look at Chapter 7. Chapter 7 provides a 4-test method for evaluating arguments. And what I wanted you to do, or what I want you to do, is to provide an in-depth analysis of that method. In addition to that, obviously I want details on each one of the tests, but there's another thing here that says discuss errors that can occur in reasoning. And so there are two main components that you're going to be focusing on this week. You're going to be focusing on errors in reasoning, and you're going to be focusing on this 4-test method. And so here is the template that I used for papers, and what I've done is I've just changed this up a bit for this particular lesson. So you will see I have a cover page here. I always have the name be descriptive. Don't put Module 3 assignment or something like that. Make it descriptive of what you're going to be talking about. Have your name there and then have the university. And then what you're going to be doing is you can change this running heading up here to the title of the paper that you write that week. So all you have to do for Module 3 is go up here, change that if you want to, then save it. Module 4, you come up and change that. So your cover page should be the same every week with the exception of the title of the paper. And then down here you'll see I always have an introduction, and I just briefly put this in here. One of the things I want you to make sure you understand is APA does not require an introduction heading. But you do need to have a heading in every single paper. And what I've written on many of your papers at the end of your introduction is do a statement like this that says the purpose of this paper is to, and then give the purpose of the paper. Understanding the purpose of the papers is very important so that the reader has a clear outlook on what you're trying to get them to understand as you go through the paper. Okay? So here are the main headings that I would put in this paper coming up. First of all, you need to set a foundation. All of your papers need to have a foundation. Instead of jumping right into the content, you need to set a foundation. And so one of the key things that, as I mentioned earlier, is an understanding of errors in reasoning. Why does this happen? What are some important things about errors in reasoning? And so that would serve as a foundation. This is, by the way, a level 1 heading. And so that's the first thing that I would have in this Module 3 assignment paper. Well, remember we talked about errors in reasoning, and you're going to be reading about this week. They happen because of what Facione and Gittins calls a fallacy of relevance. A fallacy of relevance. And so they list several different fallacies that you could include in this paper. And so the fallacies of relevance, big deal. So it's a main heading that I have for the paper. And between the headings, I always have some sort of stage. You'll set the stage, you'll set the foundation for the list of items that you're going to be using in your subheadings below. And so Facione and Gittins list several different fallacies of relevance. One of them happens to be appeals to ignorance, appeals to the mob, appeals to emotion, and so all of those become subheadings for your main heading here of fallacy of relevance. The next section gets to the heart of the paper, talks about evaluating arguments. Now that you have your foundation set up here, why are there errors in reasoning? What causes the errors in reasoning? Well, now you need to understand how to truly evaluate an argument. And so the method that it talks about in the textbook is a 4-step method where it talks about truthfulness, it talks about logical strength of the argument, relevance of the argument, and non-circularity of the argument. So you see how those 4 subheadings will support this main heading above. Okay? And then in every paper that I think I've ever written, there's always a section, whether the professor asks for it or not, for applications. And so that's where I like to put real world examples, real world ideas as you go through that really apply the principles that you talked about. And then finally, there is a conclusion. And the conclusion will summarize the key points that you have that you want the reader to take away. And so that, to me, those are the key outline, if you will, for this paper. Now, obviously, you got to go and fill in the gaps there with research, with other ideas, with your words on that. But see how the outline just flows, and it flows pretty well. I always say this to students. If you go back and your outline doesn't make any sense and it doesn't flow well, then your paper is not going to make any sense and it's not going to flow well. And then you have a separate page, obviously, for your references. Small nit here, I went ahead and put in the Facione and Gittins, since it's our textbook and you use it about every week. I put it in as a reference. Look at this. The second word in the title of a textbook is not capitalized. So it is in italics, so think critically, but with a small c. Okay? And so here's what I would do. I would save this, and then when you come to lesson 4, you just come back in here, change up your main headings, and so this would become my model, if you will, for my outlines for my papers going forward. Okay, I hope this helped you out a bit, and will give you some good ideas on how to begin to format your paper using outlines. Take care.